One person has been shot dead in the US city of Portland as protesters and counter-protesters clashed on the streets. A man has been fatally shot in a violent face-off between pro-Trump demonstrators and Black Lives Matter protesters. No further details about the identity of the deceased have been revealed as yet, but Portland has been witnessing frequent protests for months now, and at times these demonstrations have also turned violent. The incident took place in Portland's downtown area. The police have confirmed of making arrests following the violent clash.
It's a movement of women fronting up to Belarusian forces. They've become the face of the uprising against longtime President Alexander Lukashenko, when police attacked mainly men for protesting against his internationally condemned election win. 3 weeks on, forces haven't shied away from arresting hundreds of flower-wielding women. It's scenes like these the Belarusian government doesn't want international audiences to see. Authorities have revoked the accreditation of more than a dozen journalists working for foreign news outlets. It's now a crime for reporters to work, and they risk a potential prison sentence if caught. Some foreign journalists have been deported. It's been widely denounced as another step towards repression of the protest movement.
After radio silence from the Italian Coast Guard, on Saturday they responded to calls for help, transporting 49 migrants from charity vessel the Louise Michel to the island of Lampedusa. There were 32 women, 13 children, 4 men and 1 body, an unidentified migrant who failed in their dream to start a new life in Europe. They had been on the Louise Michel, a search and rescue ship funded by renowned British street artist Banksy. Named after a 19th century French anarchist, Banksy painted it with a fire extinguisher and tagged it with a modified image of his balloon girl. It launched last week from near Valencia, but the 30-metre ship and its crew of 10 have been quickly overwhelmed. It came across nearly 90 people floating in a rubber boat on Wednesday, then 130 more off the coast of Libya. Eventually, with an overcrowded deck, they tethered life rafts to the ship and called Italy, Malta and Germany for urgent help, but received no assistance.
They came by the thousands to demand Germany's government change its course in the corona crisis. But for many, the demonstrations in the heart of Berlin ended in arrest. Police say they were forced to make the detentions after far-right activists who marched alongside coronavirus skeptics clashed with police. A small group even managed to storm the steps of the German parliament before being detained. Saturday's demonstrations attracted a wide coalition of activists, from right-wing radicals to those who reject the authority of the German government or doubt the severity or even existence of the pandemic. They were unified by one belief: the government's measures to tackle the coronavirus pandemic go too far.
In a big step, in the backdrop of an ongoing conflict with China, India has backed out from participating in Russia's multinational military exercise. Russia is conducting a multilateral military exercise named Kavkaz 2020 with China, Pakistan and several other countries. Now, the Indian authorities have also taken into account the worsening global COVID-19 situation. The War Games will be held in the Astrakhan area of southern Russia. According to sources, the decision to opt out of the Russian military exercise was taken in a high-level meeting. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and Army Chief Bipin Rawat were also present in the meeting.
Anti-racism protests are being held in major cities across the country today. Demonstrators are calling for police forces to be defunded and for money to be reinvested into local communities instead. In Toronto, dozens are marching to support Black and Indigenous people, and CBC's Chris Glover is on the scene and has this report.
These protesters are marching along a very busy Toronto street. Their fists held high. They're holding signs that are calling for justice and justice now. Many of them are also saying things like abolish the police. And their main message today is to defund the police. This is a rally in Toronto, but these sorts of rallies are going on across the country today in Montreal, Moncton, Halifax, and many other cities as well.
From Sunday, South Korea has strengthened social distancing rules in the capital region for a period of 8 days until September 6th in an attempt to contain the virus. Coffee shop chains are not allowed to let people eat or drink inside. They can only get takeout or delivery. Restaurants, bakeries, and bars in the region are not allowed to admit customers between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. All indoor sports facilities such as gyms and billiard halls have to close, as do study cafes, and private academies in the capital region have to move their classes online. Also, newly announced on Sunday, the city of Seoul is going to reduce the number of buses operating after 9 p.m. starting Monday until September 6th.
She is a member of parliament and the target of racism. Depicted as being shackled with chains around her neck, the MP, Danielle Obono, has been portrayed in a 7-page fictional story as a slave. The piece in the conservative French magazine Valeurs Actuelles is being condemned across the French political spectrum, starting with the lawmaker herself. Obono said on social media that the, quote, racist crap in the rag was true to form, odious, stupid and cruel. The French Prime Minister also wrote that the revolting publication calls for an unambiguous condemnation. Jean Castex offered his support, as did Emmanuel Macron, who called the MP. However, anti-racism activists say Macron himself and his government have actually helped create a creeping acceptance of such racism by giving interviews, as Macron did last year to the magazine.
Next tonight, the death toll rising from Hurricane Laura. At least 16 people dead. The storm causing widespread destruction in Louisiana and Texas. President Trump, you see him here touring damaged areas today. Thousands without power. Officials say it could take weeks to restore and years to rebuild.
Tonight, 500,000 customers still without power in the wake of Hurricane Laura. Crews arriving, but face the daunting task of repairing or rebuilding the power grid. Tens of thousands also without running water in the stifling summer heat. 5 out of 6 water plants in Lake Charles damaged.
Water and electricity is out, and you should expect it to be out for weeks.
The storm killing at least 16 people. More than half of the deaths now linked to carbon monoxide poisoning from generators.
Well, the community of El Dorado Park is marching to the local police station this after the killing of 16-year-old Nathaniel Julies. The community is calling for justice and a complete overhaul of the police station and allege that officers, in fact, shot the teen. 2 officers from the El Dorado Park Crime Prevention Unit will be appearing in court tomorrow. They're expected to be charged with murder, defeating the ends of justice, and possession of prohibited ammunition.
Turkey has launched a military drill in eastern Mediterranean a day after it intercepted Greece's F-16 fighter jets over the disputed region. This comes as tensions continue to escalate between the 2 NATO allies. Turkey said that it would carry out exercises till the 11th of September. Earlier, the Turkish Defense Ministry said that the aircraft prevented 6 Greek F-16 jets from entering an area where Ankara is conducting maritime activities. Greece said that Turkey violated its airspace. This came as Greece began conducting a joint Air Force drill with the UAE in the Mediterranean.
the comment today that has got headlines, and he was giving this speech because it's the festival of Ashura, which is an important Shia memorial. This is what he tends to do, is he adds political comments onto religious speeches. And the one that has got all the headlines today is this comment about retaliating for the death of a Hezbollah fighter, and saying that every time Israel kills a Hezbollah fighter, they will retaliate by killing an Israeli soldier. And of course, we've just seen the renewal of the UNIFIL mandate, which is the UN organization that maintains, or is tasked with maintaining, peace on the Israeli-Lebanese border, because the two countries are still officially at war. But that right now isn't really the concern of the Lebanese people, of course. Just a few weeks after that huge explosion, and President Macron, when he was last here, was talking about trying to sponsor this new political pact, which he hasn't really gone into detail with, for Lebanese politicians. Of course, many Lebanese people on the streets here saying they don't want any of the existing politicians to be involved